imagine working so hard as a struggling Nigerian and saved up money from January to December because you're an artisan and because you needed a gadget to enhance your craft. And at the end of the year, you were able to save up a certain amount of money, which happens to be all that you could come up with. And just because you wanted to enhance and improve your craft, you went and bought a gadget and used all the money you have to purchase this gadget. And upon getting home, few days after this gadget fails to work, and you return back to where you bought this gadget and hoping that you had a warranty, and at the end of the day, they ask you to cough out another huge amount of money, which you probably do not have because you had used everything that you saved up for the whole year to make this purchase, and you were happy because you felt it was backed up with a guarantee. Of course, you'll be depressed, you'll be frustrated, and that is exactly what a lot of Nigerians are going through today, quietly suffering the misconduct of unethical businessmen, unethical traders, failed government that does not protect our citizens, and Nigerians are suffering this quietly alone. Of course, today, you can say that Nigeria has no warranty policy that backs the consumers of Nigeria, and you will be right to say so. Because at best, what we have in this country is a mere written document in form of a warranty that at best, it's just a camouflage, one of the requirements or one of the documentation needed to sell goods that are not backed by whatever warranty whatsoever. And this thing has been happening. And whenever you go to buy a gadget or an item, of course, you are on your own. At the end of the day, you have to pray that that gadget actually works and serve the purpose for which you had made that purchase, because if it doesn't, then that's the end of it. Or why is this so, and why is it happening? What is a warranty? A warranty is a promissory contract by the manufacturer, producer, or the seller to the buyer that should the product not work or has defect or malfunctions, the manufacturer, the producer, the seller is going to either replace or is going to repair or make a refund to the buyer within a specific stipulated time. It's more like an insurance, that indemnifies, that insulates the buyer or the consumer from any deficiency coming from the angle of the manufacturer or the producer of a certain item. It could be gadgets, it could be electronic appliances or whatever. That is what a warranty is. But today in Nigeria, as we are, the warranty policies of this country does not work. And why is it so? Well, the answer is simple. It is so because today in Nigeria, we have a bunch of greedy, unethical, daredevil businessmen who places their profits above every other consideration, irrespective of what that consideration, the injury that that consideration can inflict on the people of Nigeria. And most times, it is sad to say, but of course, our government had allowed us to be at the mercy of this unethical monopolist, this unethical capitalist, whose only consideration are on how they can take advantage of the vulnerable Nigerian public. Most of these things are caused by our importers, of course, our Igbo brothers who are majorly into, import, are the people who have, unleashed this unfortunate situation on the people of Nigeria. I want to ask, when was the last time you bought an item and upon trying to use it, you found out that that item was not serving the purpose for which you had bought it, or the promised functionalities that was written in the user's manual was not actually working as was promised, and then you try to make a return, and then you peacefully, successfully was able to return that appliances, that gadget, and you were refunded, or it was replaced for you without any hassle. Of course, it's almost impossible. As we speak to you today in Nigeria, it is impossible for you to buy an item and get home, and if that item does not work, you return back the item, and then you are properly taken care of either by way of refund or by way of replacement or by way of repair, without incurring further expenses or further liability for what ordinarily was supposed to be backed by a warranty that should indemnify you, from any of such further expenses or discomfort. And it is because our importers, our traders, our distributors had become very, very greedy, to the extent that their attributes and their actions had become very detrimental to the ordinary people of Nigeria today. And unfortunately, the Nigerian system, the Nigerian government, our policy makers are not doing anything to help the general populace. I'll give you some practical example. Recently, a friend of mine bought a gadget, a phone particularly, and she was using the phone, and after about 3 months, according to her, on a fine morning, the phone was on her sofa in her sitting room, and all of a sudden the phone started vibrating. She thought the phone was ringing. When she got there, the screen was blank, but the phone was vibrating. And when she picked up the phone became so hot as if it wants to explode. She struggled and tried to see how she can turn it off or make it stop, but that was the end of that phone. Phone went blank, and when she returned back to where she purchased the phone, and because this phone had a warranty of about a year, she thought that when she gets there, she was going to be attended to as expected and as covered by the warranty. But upon getting there, it came up with all sorts of cock and bull stories, and then asked her to pay the sum of 38,000. She called on me, and then I went there and I asked, this phone has a warranty. Why should this lady be paying for a phone that obviously had a factory malfunction or manufacturer's, defects or deficiency? Why should she be paying? And of course, he came up with something I've never heard before. He said it is liquid intrusion. Funny enough, this lady said the phone had never come close to any liquid or whatever, has not been exposed to any liquid or whatsoever. And then upon pressing further, the manager told me that liquid intrusion does not only happen when the phone is exposed to water. So if liquid intrusion is not the incursion of water or liquid, then what then it is? Surprisingly, upon getting there, another man who had similar problem was also there, making a ruse, making a complaint, getting all angry that his phone that he bought from them had not gotten even up to a month. Yet, they were telling him to pay 53,000 to get the screen fixed. And what was the excuse again? Water intrusion. And the man said categorically, this phone had not come close to water whatsoever. And there is no way there could be liquid intrusion. Of course, not satisfied, I pressed harder, introduced myself, and of course, they became jittery and began to try to negotiate. And from 50-something thousand, they began to negotiate down, asking the lady to pay, to come up, with whatever she can pay so that they can make it up and all of that. And I insisted that she will not pay a dime. Of course, I had to go back to look at our consumer protection laws and see what is guaranteed, in our laws for situations like that and all of that. And I was so disappointed with what I found. And that is why I want to share this with us today. And when I tried to do some more research, I found out that it is a norm and a culture among our importers, among our distributors, amongst our salesmen who go to China to import mostly inferior gadgets and items. And what they do is, the moment a new product comes out, they pick original copy, fly out to China, get to meet manufacturers who will do a prototype of the original. And then they flood our markets with substandard products, with products that does not have any quality. And what they even do to make more money is that they get to these manufacturers and they tell them, use so quality or so amount, this is what we want to pay. And then of course China will produce those gadgets according to the amount that they had requested. And what happens in most cases is that this gadget does not have any warranty whatsoever. Of course, they will print user manual and then print warranty and all of those things. And when you buy, you think you have a warranty. But when you have any issue that requires the warranty to support or back you up, that's when you realize that that warranty is just a hocus pocus that is written on a piece of a useless and worthless paper. And that's when you know that you have no warranty. And why is that? Of course, when you go to China to want to, manufacture products and all of those things, if you carry a prototype, you're going to meet people who are not the original manufacturers of that product, but can, of course, do a replica for you. And that is what our importers have flooded our Nigerian markets with as of today. Prototype copies of gadgets and appliances that are not original, and because they are getting it from people who are not the original manufacturers, it is almost impossible for them to get any form of warranty from the manufacturers. So whatever you are seeing on that piece of paper that is written as a warranty is just at the whims and caprices and discretion of the distributor, who is a Nigerian, who in most cases does not manufacture those products. So since they are just salesmen who are not manufacturers, who does not also have any concrete or reasonable agreement for a refund or for a warranty replacement, they will come up with all forms, of shenanigans just to ensure that the moment you make that purchase and leave their shop or their office to your home, the whole liability or whatever happens next is all on you. Not satisfied with the incident, because I have also been there. These are the challenges that a lot of Nigerians are going through quietly today. Of course, Nigeria, is a society where the people move on so quickly. So, of course, these things will just happen the moment you try to argue a little bit and they insist, you move away. But then the question is, what about people who had struggled so hard to try to obtain these items, to try to obtain this gadget for specific purposes and intent, and at the end of the day, its malfunctions, are setting them back, and they cannot, meet up, because like the example I cited, someone who had worked so hard, maybe you're an artisan, you're not someone of high means and all of that. You saved up just to acquire something because of the use case and all that. And at the end of the day, that item does not serve the purpose for which you had purchased it. And right now you are left with no other option than to go back, go and struggle to raise further money for either repair or a new purchase for something that you are supposed to be protected from by the law. It's sad and unfortunate, but this thing is happening. And then I try to dig deeper to look at the position of the law of Nigeria with regards to our consumer protection. And then I found out that we have a Federal Competition and Consumer Protection Act of 2018, which in most cases does little or nothing to protect the consumers of Nigeria. Of course, that law empowers the Standard Organization of Nigeria, SON, to actually investigate, examine, monitor, and ensure the quality of the products that are coming into Nigeria. That law also empowers the Nigeria Consumer Protection, Council to actually provide some fringe legal support to the Nigerian populace. But of course, like I said, these are laws that most times, are not enforceable. Because, for instance, if you look at the law says that every product or gadget that is brought into the country, utility appliances and all of that, should have a warranty period of at least 6 months, and does not stipulate or specify the maximum number, the maximum period for which a warranty should cover. And the law also does not enforce the repair or the refund or return on defective appliances on the manufacturer. The law only concentrates on the distributors, the sellers. But of course, you know that this is Nigeria, and then our businessmen will always, find ways to undo the vulnerable populace of Nigeria, and that is what is happening today. If you look at the law, I was checking what are the functions, or the responsibility of the Consumer Protection Council, and I found out that the Consumer Protection Council cannot even enforce the law upon defaulters when, consumers, are being toyed with, because their responsibility is basically to educate the consumers, to mediate between, any discrepancies or disagreement between consumers, and the marketers, and does not give any power to the Consumer Protection Council to enforce the rights, of the consumers. So in most cases, the responsibility of Consumer Protection Council is to do advert, just like the National Orientation Commission. That's just almost the same job that the CPC is saddled with. But even at that, even the little laws or legislation that we have in that regard, are they even following it? The answer is no. As we speak today, it is impossible for you to get a refund. In fact, of course, the Igbo men, that one is like a no-no. It's like an aberration that you buy something from an Igbo man and then go back because the thing was not good, or maybe you don't like the thing, or maybe an issue came up and then they give you a refund. It's practically impossible for that to happen in this country. But the worst case is even the fact that they make you to pay another substantial amount of money for a repair, which al initio they were supposed to undertake by virtue of the warranty that covers the product. And Nigerians are suffering that, and it's happening every day. In fact, today as we speak, the Standard Organization of Nigeria does little or nothing. In fact, I can tell you without any fear of contradiction that they are the enablers of the suffering that consumers of Nigeria are facing. Because of course, part of the duties that they were supposed to do is to verify the quality, authenticity, and the source from where the products, gadgets, appliances that comes into Nigeria is coming from. But today, of course, we know what happens. Today, if you're an importer, you have enough money, you can import anything into Nigeria, whether it is of quality or substandard, and everything goes. And then when it enters into the market, of course, the Nigerian population are at the mercy of these criminal, merchants who are there, to take advantage of the vulnerability, of Nigerians. And the Standard Organization of Nigeria, the policymakers are the enablers of these unethical businessmen, and they'll be doing deals that will give them money at the expense of the suffering masses of Nigeria. And that's why it's always a very serious battle, at the top in these agencies. People fight, they do all manner of things, to get there. Standard Organization of Nigeria, the National Industrial Society that are supposed to, look out for these things to ensure that before a product will get into Nigeria, it passes through all certification, including the warranty. Because of course, no product is supposed to sell, in a country without going through all the necessary approvals, necessary verification, necessary checks, and even registration. In fact, for you to sell a product in Nigeria or in other country where things are working, you have to go through, their company and allied matters registration process, just like the CAC that we have here in Nigeria. You're supposed to go through the CAC registration, and even before the CAC is supposed to register you and give you certification for operation, you are supposed to, the background check that organizations, like the SUN, NIS, were supposed to put in place. In fact, the NIS and so on are supposed to certify you before the CAC will even give you a certificate of incorporation, after verifying that yes, your mode of operation is such that will not inflict injury, will not cause harm and pains to Nigerians. But today, we know that that is not what is obtainable here. Anybody can just, go abroad the moment you have money, go to China, import whatever you want to import, give them specification to manufacture whatever you want for you, and then go to the customs service, pay them some money, and then, of course, they give you approval and all of those things, and then you bring those things here and begin to sell it whichever way you want. Today, as we speak, the Customs Service, Standard Organization, the NAFDAC, and all the agencies that are supposed to be the watchdog to protect Nigerians, from substandard product and injurious practices, are the ones who are even doing the importation. I can tell you without contradiction, most of our custom top officers, most of our standard organization, top officers, and all the, related agencies that are supposed to check the operations of, goods and services that comes into this country, most of them are the ones who are actually doing the importation of the fake and substandard products. Of course, you cannot, catch them red-handed because they go through proxies. Most of the importers that you see today are in partnership with top custom officers. Some of them are in partnership with top directors in the Standard Organization of Nigeria. And then when these top government officials are the ones who are carrying out this act in league with these people, then how then do you expect that there will be checks and balances? It is sad, but that's what it is. And I ask the question again. When was the last time you bought something and that thing did not work within the warranty period, and then you took it back, and then they quietly accepted it, replaced it for you, or maybe did a repair without asking you to come and cough out some more money? So it is safe to say that as of today, warranty on gadgets, products, and appliances in Nigeria is completely absent. At best, it is written just on a piece of paper that is non-functional. Because when once you have any concern or any issue, and then you try to go and get the indemnity that has been offered you by the warranty, of course, you must be made to cough out a substantial amount of money. They must come up with all forms of shenanigans that will make sure that they take money from you. And I try to reach out to some friends, who knows better and who are, on the line and all of this, and all the narrative is the same. That Nigerian products that are coming from China into Nigeria has no warranty. Most times, the importers will instruct their distributors, there is no warranty on this thing. As far as they are concerned, you sell it the moment they give to you to distribute. You do everything that you can to make sure that there is no refund or no return. And that's the reason why when you take a gadget to them to go and change or to go and repair, because they know that they don't have any warranty that covers them from any quota, they will come up with all sorts of things to ensure that they extract the money that will be needed for the replacement of the parts or for the replacement of the gadgets from you, so that they don't run at loss. But it's unfortunate because that is not what is obtainable in other places. The government is supposed to protect the citizens of Nigeria. Look at what is happening today in our country. The economy is so poor, so bad. cost of living is so high, and then when people struggle to save up money to get items, the sharp practices of our brothers and our sisters most times ensures that we don't get value for money. Today, in fact, the gadget, sector now in Nigeria has been so saturated with a lot of substandard and fake items. And Nigeria now is like a dump ground where people, can just manufacture anything and then load it up, cross the Atlantic and come and dump it here on Nigerians. If you go to other countries where things are working, like, in the UK and some parts, of America, South America, and in fact, it's just here in Africa and mostly Nigeria that you see all kinds of brands that you don't even know where they are coming from. In some other places, you see brands like Apple, you see brands like Samsung, which are the major brands that they use. Because these brands have, an understanding, a reasonable contractual code of ethics, mode of operation, agreements that they enter with the government of the country. And for that reason, they cannot misbehave. But in Nigeria here today, even the iPhones, the Apple product that we use, 90% of it are fake Apple product, either refurbished one or a replica that is not actually the Apple phone. Samsung too. These are the two recognizable, brands. Yet in Nigeria here, these, merchants have been able to, cut corners, and now you have all kind of substandard, copies from this product here in Nigeria. And it is sad. You see all kinds of phone, Android this, Android that, and all of those things everywhere that is not backed by warranty. The products that you cannot even reach the manufacturers. And whenever any of these products have any challenge, you are on your own. In Nigeria as a whole, I don't think we have more than 2 certified Apple outlets. I know one in Lagos. I don't know if we have one in the FCT. I think we should. But here in Port Harcourt, I don't think we have any. So majority of the things that you buy, I add either stolen products, refurbished product, or a replica of the original, beg your pardon. And agencies of government that are supposed to look into these things had gone into connivance with these people. So for instance, in America, you have the Magnuson-Moss Act. That is the law that supersedes every other laws when it comes to customers' rights and customers' protection. Although in different states of America, you have what is called the Uniform Commercial Code, which is, the independent state laws. But there is something in America. The UCC, the Uniform Commercial Code, is under the Federal Act, the Magnuson-Moss Act. And where there is any conflict, the federal law takes precedence. The federal law supersedes, because of course the federal law is the express law that mandates every manufacturer, every producer to explicitly explain the use cases of the items, the durability, the strength, the service it tends to order, and all of those things, and then explain to the warranty that is guaranteed, for the users and the buyers, the customers. And in America, the implied laws for consumer protection, which are, the state laws, are not allowed to take precedence over the federal law. So for instance, if you buy something and then maybe the manufacturer doesn't want to change it for you if there's a defect or something, of course, if you take them to court, they are out of business. In America, the warranty gives you up to 4 years. 4 years in some states. So you can buy your item, use it, and then after some time, you don't like it anymore. As far as it does not have any physical defect or issue, that has not been mutilated, you can go back and say, look, this thing is no longer serving the purpose for which I purchased it. Another sense, I want, a replacement, and they replace it for you without hassle at a very minimal cost. In fact, if it is, within the initial period of maybe a year and thereabout, they can change it, for you for free, and then your repairs is free as far as it is something that is related to, to the manufacturer's, deficiency or default. Everything is free. But here in Nigeria, even when it is very clear, you can go and buy something today. The moment you get home, that's over. It's over. You're on your own. Whereas in America and the UK, where we practice our leadership style from, most of the things that we do here today in Nigeria are copied from these two countries. When you buy a thing within a certain period, you no longer like in the UK, within 30 days, they can still make a refund. You can return it back and then get your money back. And after that, if you don't like the item again, you can go for a replacement. If the product have any defect, they change it for you. In the UK, you can even still replace your item after 6 years of usage. But here in Nigeria, our Igbo brothers had formed a cult where the moment you take something from them, in fact, some of them tell you that they don't make refund. They've become so bold to the point that they expressly, tell it to you, write it on some of their flyers, no refund policy, that they don't make refunds. So for instance, if I bought something and then I got home and that thing is not serving the purpose for which I bought it, or maybe it has a defect and I entirely change my mind that I don't want to buy this thing anymore, they can't make a refund. You can't be refunded, even though you've not used the product. The moment the money has been paid to them, that's the end of it. And it's unfortunate because in a country where the people are ruled by laws, everything that we do was supposed to be according to the law. Today we have a law that says that gadgets and items should have a warranty period of at least 6 months. But what has become of that law? Nobody's talking about it. We have the Federal Competition and Consumer Protection Act, a piece of legislation that backs, the consumers, guides manufacturers, distributors, producers of products, and intends, to regulate the activities for the benefit of the common masses. But today, what are we going through in Nigeria? Where is our manufacturers, warranty policy? What is the functionality? How is the warranty policies of Nigeria working today as we speak? This thing is something that a lot of persons are suffering from daily, but a lot of persons cannot come out to say. As we speak to you today, according to what I've found out, our laws are not even vehement on this. There is no strong law that is enforceable to make, businessmen not to take advantage of ordinary Nigerians. And it's unfortunate because no society runs that way. No society, as we speak today, the business, climate of Nigeria, is like that of the jungle. Anybody comes into, the sector, do what they want and muscle their way and all of those things, gain visibility and begin to monopolize the system to the extent that even the regulators, the policy makers, had fallen, flat to these people just because they need money. That money that custom collects, that money that the standard organization collects, from these importers, from these manufacturers, from these, distributors, it's just a debt that they are collecting from these people because these people will definitely go back, and devise a way of collecting it, from the masses of Nigeria who are suffering. And laws like that are made to protect the populace so that producers and manufacturers, does not take advantage, undue advantage of the suffering, population. Capitalists will always find a way to milk the people, but it is the duty of the government to regulate, to monitor, to ensure that capitalism does not override humanity and public empathy. Because that's the essence of governance. The moment government no longer care about the welfare of its people, then that government has no business to exist anymore. And as of today, on the issue of warranty for gadgets and products and appliances in Nigeria, the government of Nigeria has completely failed Nigerians. And that's what it is. But of course, what should you do as a Nigerian who intends to get these items so that you don't fall prey or fall victim, to these unconscionable businessmen who are out to undo the ordinary citizens for their own profit? What should we do? Because of course, we know that the government is not there, it's not going to, protect us. They've never protected us. We also know that these businessmen are not going to wake up tomorrow and change their mindset or their approach to business. For them, it is profit, 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 and nothing else. So what should you do as a Nigerian to make sure that you don't fall victim to this kind of thing? Which, of course, I know that every Nigerian of age at one point or the other must have had this particular issue of failed warranty promises, of failed warranty that was not fulfilled. Every Nigerian of age who had made purchases at one time or the other must have experienced this refusal by distributors, by sellers, by merchants to actually make good the promise in the warranty contract. So what should we do? Well, it is simple. One thing that we must do to stay away from such incidents is to curtail our appetite to be the first to use new products. There's a culture, within us here, although it's not synonymous to Nigeria, it's all over the world. When a new product comes out, most people want to be the first to use those products. Yes, it can work in other climes where the governments monitor the kinds of products, the quality, durability, and safety of the products that are brought into their society. But here in Nigeria, because of the complacency and the absence of government regulatory framework in our society, it is important for you not to rush to go and buy new product, because in most cases, the new products are experimental and the chances for defectiveness or deformity or failure are always higher when it is new. You can see that, a company will bring out a product and put it in the market to experiment, and after a while they begin to make modification according to the complaints that they are getting or according to the issues that they have seen. That's why if it's electronic products and all of those things, cloud-based products, you see that they do updates and upgrade and stuff. Or sometimes when it is the hardware itself, there is nothing you can do than to replace those hardware. And if you are one of the first people who purchase those products, of course, here in Nigeria, you already know the case. Sorry is your case, or your is your case, according to how we say it in our local parlance here in Nigeria. So, don't rush to go and be the first to buy new products. Secondly, always try to buy products that has established name from proven and confirmed registered distributors. That's the way. Because if you buy a product from a recognizable and reputable company, of course, if the distributor tries to act up, some way, somehow, you can reach out to the manufacturer, who can direct and guide you on what to do, so that at least you'll be indemnified. But when you buy, product from OKK and Son, who is just, out there in the public just to sell, counting the numbers, making sure that his turnover is high and all of those things, and then he brings out a new product, runs adverts around it, and then you see it, the glaze and glamour, and then you rush to go and be the first to buy. Of course, the odds against you will be stacked up high, and the possibility of you falling victim to this warranty crisis will be there. Remember, the warranty, like I said, is just, a piece of write-up in a worthless paper that is not backed by any law. And here in Nigeria, our law does not give you any leverage to litigate against these big distributors who have all the money. So, these are the things that you should do. Number one, make sure that you don't rush to go and be the first that wants to, use a new product just to feel high and all of that. And then number two, ensure that you buy, from reputable distributors who have a proven and certified contact and contract with the manufacturer. That way, you stand a lesser risk of facing this challenge, although it is still inherent, because of course, the issue is not with the manufacturer or the producer, it is in the attitude of the Nigerian businessmen who does not have empathy on the Nigerian population, who sees the Nigerian populace, as a tool to enrich themselves. So these are the things that I feel that if we do, of course, we'll be a little bit immune, from this madness that has, sunk into the heads and mind, of our businessmen in Nigeria today. Of course, we say this thing not because we hate anybody or not because we are vindictive, want to victimize or go against anybody, but we are saying these things because corruption buried in secret destroys a nation, but truth elevates, truth motivates, and above all, truth heals. Thank you once again until I come your way again next time. My name is Comrade Solomon Lenu.